So we're in the month of December and we are faced with busy times. It gets hard to train for whatever it is that you're training for in these days because there's a few changes. For some, it's weather. For some, it's the shopping for the holidays that can be a little hectic, and also uh, parties going on, all these things. So today we're going to discuss a little bit of that. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel. And with me is my colleague, Adele Bonaf Bonafonos and
Bonifants.
Bonafons. Um, Today, we're going to discuss that. I am a marathon coach who helps people train for marathons or for running endurance sports through a holistic way and get them to the finish line injury-free. And Adele, why don't you tell us what you do also?
Well, Victor and I are running, just colleagues, running buddies. We just really have connected on the running issues in our lives. But I am a grandmother and a mom and 67 years old now, birthday last week. But I've been running most of my life. And a lot of it started because I was a competitive tennis player. But got into the marathoning, first marathon at 40. So a lot of marathons, a lot of half marathons. So basically, my history is a lot of long distance and mainly for health and sanity and running into a life worth running for in my older years. So that's where I am. And I think Victor and I can definitely impart a lot of wisdom and experience to help you train for a walk around your block or all the way to the marathon distance and potentially Ironman, which Victor has done. So stick with us. We got some great information for y'all.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining our show today. The title of our show is The Power of Strides, A Life Worth Running. And to start us off today, Adele's going to tell us a little bit about the challenges that we face during the holidays. Go ahead, take it off, Adele.
Oh, I will. All these years of all the things that I've done, a lot of times over the years, 67 years old, but running really most of my life, good 55 years of running because I started to use the running as supplement my other activities when I was growing up. But either or doesn't matter why you're doing it. The biggest thing is that during the holidays, a lot of us are focused on our family activities, our obligations. And if we're in a really good, consistent nutrition and fitness plan, we tend to let it go and say, oh, we'll start again New Year's. It's not necessary to do that because of your time constraints. You can always work a little bit of something in 10 minutes. You can go for a walk around the block 10 minutes. You can go for, you know, do 20 squats, do a couple little bend overs and just get your body moving, get your heart, maybe 15 jumping jacks. You can do a few things in your limited time that you have available. But if you are planning for something that's a fitness event that's coming up after the holidays, you want to try to stay consistent. So let's look at some of the time constraints. I know Victor has trained through holiday seasons as well.
Yes.
Let's look at time first because I always had a half marathon with a 5K and a quarter marathon the day before at the Louisiana Marathon weekend in the middle of January. So that key week of Christmas to New Year's was right before my tapering time. I would run a marathon a lot of years in early December and then take a break after that. But that last week of Christmas to New Year's was key to get my last maybe long distance in, my last maybe, heavy training, and then taper those 2 weeks prior to my race, which was my goal. So, have you ever encountered that through your holidays, Victor?
Yes, absolutely. Um, Having that tapering time kind of comes in handy so
Mm-hmm.
that you are scheduling your light training for the holidays, and you can always find a way to get it. For me, it's been getting it done early in the morning. I'm a morning person. This morning, I am dog sitting. I have a dog. Her name is Bailey, and I take her out for a run. I took her out at I think it was 4:30 in the morning, and that's when there's hardly any traffic. It's very convenient, and nothing comes up that's going to distract you too much in the morning at 4:30 because everybody else seems to be sleeping. So you're not getting like phone calls or emergencies at that time. So it'll get done if I do it in the
Mhm.
morning. Whereas I've had it before where like, oh, you know what, I'm going to do it in the afternoon, and something always comes up. It's like, oh, I'll do it a little later on, or I'll postpone it for later. And sometimes you never get that workout done. So yeah, I
And
think that getting it done early is best. At least it's worked for me.
I agree with you totally because I'm a morning person too. I've always got my fitness event scheduled for the early morning. I may get up and do some things for a little while and then head out to either run, bike, swim, whatever. Of course, with the cycling, I have to make sure the sun's up before I get on the road. But the biggest thing about running or exercising in the morning is also consider what the weather is where you're living. But that morning time is strictly your own. And if you do not usually work out in the mornings, but you have some vacation time or some flexible time when you're celebrating your holidays, try to get out early before your family commitments or your family tasks or anything you're doing to get ready for your holidays or your family events keeps you from getting your workout in. And it does lead to frustration, both mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. You want to keep that balance through the holidays. So try to adjust the time you go if you have the time in the morning. And I will also tell you this too. One of the big considerations, I know, Victor, you're in a really cold environment right now, right? Aren't you in Idaho?
Yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
it's really, really cold. So you're layering up if you're going out at 4:30 in the morning, correct?
That's correct. Make sure that I have my gloves and some layers. And yeah, it does get pretty cold. And having that stuff ready the night before helps me as
Mhm.
well because I don't know, sometimes when I wake up tired, I can look for excuses of why I'm not going. So if I have everything ready, I don't have any excuses. I just like uh and I begin by I like to have coffee. So I begin
Mhm.
by, I have my coffee. I go and start getting dressed. And not think so much as like, oh, I'm gonna do 6 miles or 3 miles or 4 miles. I kind of just like it helps me not to think about the distance if I'm tired.
Right.
It's just getting out the door.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing to consider too is making that time strictly your own. If you do have someone in your family or a spouse or a significant other, or
A
even a
dog.
child or yeah, someone that you might be training with and they're with you, just set that up together, but keep that time your own as well if you're not going to have anybody go with you. And that's huge because it makes you really capable to get involved with family obligations and responsibilities later in the day. If you're also working through the holidays and that early morning is giving you the time you need, that's not going to interfere with a family event, say after your working hours, or maybe a party that you're going to with working friends or colleagues, or even your running groups. Go for a run with your running groups, and then go have a meal, or if you're going to have a few drinks, always try to adjust the time that fits best for you so that you don't miss it. And the other thing to remember is when you are going out in the weather, if it's really bad weather and you're not safe, try to find something where you can do that fitness event inside. If you have a fitness facility somewhere nearby that
A
you use
treadmill,
to go
yeah.
get workouts, right? Go on the treadmill or go on the bike or use an elliptical if it's a run day. If it's a bike day, go on the bike. But what I'm going to suggest hardly to everyone is just keep yourself safe in bad weather. If it's really snowing and you're not used to doing that, don't go run in the snow unless you're capable of understanding what that can do to you if you're not accustomed to the way it's going to adjust on your muscle movement, your leg strides, and all that. You have to be very, very wary of how you stride in the snow, just like running in the rain and the floods, like I do here in Louisiana. I've run through many marathons with 30-degree temperature, layered up, and it's storming rain, but
Yeah.
I'm wary of where I'm running and where I'm stepping and how I'm going to address my strides accordingly. So that's another consideration too. Watch the
Yeah.
weather, watch where you go.
And you can always take baby steps, if you are going to go for the first time out when it's a little icy,
Mhm.
making sure you have those spikes, and just go for a little bit and then start getting acclimated to that kind of conditions slowly. The other
Right.
thing, and on a side note, because you and I have talked about
Mhm.
Christmas gifts, and this point, it could even be stocking stuffers. Those are
Right.
good ideas too, like spikes, flashlight, things that the runner in your family can
Hmm.
really use in the winter. Because I have people have given me socks, flashlights, things like that, and I always use them. I don't think I've ever like said, "Oh, I don't need that." Even if I have one, you always can use another one.
Oh yeah, and gloves, thermal gloves, a
Yeah.
couple of pair of maybe wool or thermal socks. And look, I tell you what, you know as well as I do, it doesn't matter how cold it is. Your feet, your hands, your head, you will sweat. Your clothes, when you do go ahead and change, you're going to undergarments will be wet with sweat. Your body is working. It will generate heat. It will generate sweat. Please, please, please be aware of that because you want to wear the stuff that's going to keep your body warm, especially your extremities, because that's going to make your run that much more enjoyable and successful.
Yeah, and then nowadays they have a lot of special material that's
Hmm.
for the winter that allows to wick the moisture a little bit more. Because I've had in the past gone, and when I first started running in the cold, I thought, oh, I'll just put a bunch of layers, but you can't overdo it. You can get
No,
overheat,
you can't.
and then when you sweat, those clothes get wet, and now you're in trouble if you have to stop running
Mhm.
because now you have really super cold conditions and you're soaked. And if you have an injury or something, you have to walk for a little while, you can get in trouble.
Yeah,
Hyperthermia can set in pretty quick.
yeah. And also remember too that what goes along with the physical part of running is your hydration and nutrition. It doesn't matter that you're running in the cold, you are still burning calories and you're still burning your glycogen supplies, you're burning the fuel that you put into your body, and you are releasing all of that built up hydration to get ready for your run. Remember to stay consistent on your post run, post workout plan. Go ahead and rebuild some of that protein with a good meal, a good protein shake. Also, get that water and hydration back in if you use any kind of electrolytes. You may not feel like you work that hard, but your body is accustomed to still working hard. You're just not expending as much as if you were running in 100% humidity or really warm conditions. You are still working. Your metabolism is still generating that energy to process things through your body. So please make sure you consider those post workout meals, hydration, and definitely get the rest you need so that you'll be successful the next day.
Yes, awesome. I totally agree.
Mm.
Uh, the other thing that you and I talked about is how do you make the holidays a little more fun?
Ah, tell me what you think, and then I'll give you some of my suggestions from way down south.
Well, in the areas that I've lived, they always have a Santa run or something like that. So those are fun because we used to uh,
Yeah.
dress up for those holidays and take our grandkids, and it would be a really fun family affair. I think it's a great way to also promote exercising.
Mhm.
Uh, I know one time it was a really difficult because it was super cold. It just happened to be like 10 degrees below. So it made it really difficult, but it was still fun to make it a priority to be there to
Mhm.
see the Grinch. So yeah, the grandkids still loved it. We just had to cut it short because it was so
Yeah.
cold.
We have an event here in the New Orleans area. And y'all know I'm a New Orleans girl. I live across the lake from New Orleans now, in a great little city. Trace to run, bike. I got pools around everything. But when my kids were little and I was really competitive in my running, I was running a lot of marathons. The Celebration of the Oaks in the city park of New Orleans is a beautiful event. I was actually a part of the development of that years and years ago. Adam is going to be, my son is 34, and this was it. A year before he was born, I was very instrumental in getting that program started. And it's been so much fun. And they do a 2 mile run. Now they're doing it at another park, a little bit away from the New Orleans area now. But Mr. Bingle run. Mr. Bingle's one of our New Orleans Christmas characters. He's near and dear to my heart. All the jingle bells, all the reindeer runs, all the things we used to do. I would go out and run my 2 miles for like a training 2 mile run and come back. And I have pictures of crossing the finish line, pushing my grandson across when he was not able to walk yet, or walking with hand in hand when he was just starting to walk at 1 or 2 and 3. And it was some of my favorite memories. They also would allow us to go in with our race numbers to the big festivities and the program and see the gardens and all the lights. So those things are really good to do, and they're usually very inexpensive. The other thing I'll mention about the community events, Victor, and you probably are familiar with this as well, a lot of times there's sponsors that are actually taking portions of of the proceeds and donating them to a nonprofit or an organization that benefits some group in the community. And that's always a great thing to do because you feel like you're giving back. Besides having fun with your family, you're giving back. And that part of being a community service really generates the good feelings during the holidays. So you can always enjoy that part of it too.
Yes, yes, that's true. They do that usually for the turkey trots as well.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so you're you're teaching your kids or the little ones, if you have little ones, and take them with you, not only to engage in fun activities and active like running, but also the hard part, the giving on those days
Hmm.
that part is essential, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I did want to mention, if you want to move on just a little bit, there was a couple of things that you and I just brought up in talking about preparing and making the time. Remember that you do need the rest as well and the relaxation. If you do any of your long training in the early mornings and you're coming in from a cold environment or you're in a really warm environment like I am down south, um, get the rest you need before you start tackling family obligations or tasks or family parties. And if you're working to get some of that rest back in your system. If you are eating a little bit richer, we've talked about this as previously too, or you're having a few alcoholic beverages, make sure that you're hydrated and getting the rest you need. Because if you do have a goal and you're staying on your fitness, stay on your hydration and nutrition and rest as well, mainly because that's going to keep you on that successful track to achieve the goal you want to achieve and have success in your event. So I know Victor, we've talked about that a little bit last week. I
Yeah.
don't know if we hit as much on the rest and relaxation part, but I do think it's key. And if you do have to walk away from your family event, maybe a little bit early, let them tease you a little bit. Oh, he's got a race, or oh, she's running a marathon. You know what? That's
Yeah.
a real joy to be acknowledged in that way. And just say, I
Yes.
just need a little rest so I can go on my run the next day. And then we're going to party after that. So, you have any ideas on that as well, Victor?
Yes, definitely. If you shouldn't compromise your sleep too much during those times because it's essential for recovery. And it also depends on how hard you're training and the
Mm-hmm.
kind of job that you have and how stressful. I I talked to you about this the last week is having a little bit of time of decompressing, especially if you're doing really hard workouts and because that puts some stress on the body.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't take the time to have a cool down, make yourself regulate yourself, cool down, it's very important to do it because a lot of people have go straight from a workout to
Mm-hmm.
a kind of stress environment and they don't get that time to decompress. And a lot of it has to do with, the time constraints, but if you can take a little bit of time after your workout to decompress, to have those deep breaths, relax, have a cool down, and then move on. That's really good. That it goes right in with the rest, rest before going on to some different activity.
Well, and I think too, one of the things that we really want are trying to encourage all of y'all is de-stress. And when you have that opportunity to de-stress because you have other responsibilities and other commitments with your family and friends, because the holidays are busier than we all want them to be, but we love being with our family and friends. The biggest thing is that if you do take those few extra minutes to de-stress, it's almost important maybe not run that extra half mile or mile and walk, breathe, cool down a little bit, get out of the mental and physical mode of pace, or I've got to achieve this mile, or I've got to run this pace, or now I'm in my cool down. Go ahead and add a few extra minutes to that. Sometimes that's very beneficial before you walk back into the environment with the family, the friends, the house, the office. And then all of a sudden you're inundated with other stimulation. So give yourself that time. And if you are truly paying attention to what your body and your heart and your mind need, those 5 minutes is sometimes all it takes. And that's not a lot of time commitment, but sometimes that's all it takes. Same thing as we talked about with the workout. If you do have a little gym or fitness facility or even some exercise areas in your home, you can use some bands. You can tuck your feet under a chair. You can have some of the kids sit on top of your feet, maybe do a few stretches, do a few sit ups. Anything that gives your body that little sense of motion stimulates your heart muscles, stimulates your mind, also keeps your spirit intact too. 5 or 10 minutes is better than none at all. So all of those things go into play when you're trying to have some success as well as complete some of your goals that you're going to be meeting maybe right after the new year. A lot of that goes into play with that too, with the food and nutrition and hydration and rest.
Yeah, absolutely right. And many of us skip those stretching or cool downs, and they're very essential, especially if you're doing hard workouts. Skipping those can cost, uh, can have really severe cost because that's how injuries happen when we don't take the time to cool down. Because even though we had a great workout, we feel fantastic, we go straight to work or whatever other activity we do. And then the next day when we go to a run, boom, something happens. And it's usually because, you know, the scar tissue didn't have time to heal. It stayed it fragile,
Right.
fragile.
Right.
You didn't stretch it, you didn't make it more elastic. So the next time that it goes, something pops, something tears. So yeah, making sure you're stretching and cooling down is very, very important.
I think another thing to consider as well is stay on top of what might be going on in your community. We talked about some of these holiday runs or holiday, celebration events. Sometimes they'll do these little holiday workouts, but not necessarily associated with a gym or a fitness facility, but just associated with a group. And they're welcoming the community in. Sometimes they say bring a can of food or bring a dry good. They contribute to maybe some food baskets for the needy or the those that are really struggling during the holidays. And you can do those usually in a park. Sometimes, if it is an indoor facility, they ask you to bring your family and friends. So keep tabs on those kind of things in your community too. I think I
Yeah.
mentioned last week my son owns a gym, and we always do an open community workout with a lot of community sharing and support and encouragement. You walk in the doors. We do it once a week, but also during the holidays he does like open holiday workouts. Family and friends, especially those that have people in from out of town, have come for the last 9 years. It's a lot of fun. You feel really good doing it. You share with your community. And if we ever have a donation program, sometimes Adam and Megan will put together little baskets for things. And people don't mind grabbing a can of soup or, a little box of cereal that's extra in the house, unopened, please, to bring to donate to some of those that are more needy in our communities. So keep tabs on some of those things as well, especially
Yeah.
with your children and grandchildren, young adults that might be in from college on the holidays. You're looking for things to do so that the younger generation doesn't say, "Oh, I'm bored. When do we go to grandma's house to get more presents?" Have them help with something, have them be a part of something, and have them give back a little bit to the community as well. They might
Yeah.
make a new friend. Who knows?
Yes, the sense of contribution, it's
Right,
really helpful.
right,
When
right.
you're traveling, because that I just thought about that. If somebody's traveling, they can always look up what activities are going on in those areas they're traveling to. I know I've done that before, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be fun as well.
And the connections you make, just saying hello to somebody in a new environment, you never know if that's going to lead to a friendship like Victor and I developed a couple of years ago just because we started talking because I had running clothes on.
Yeah, he actually went
That's
on a
what I found
run.
out. Well, if you remember that, I had
So,
running clothes on, getting ready for a conference. I had to go. I hadn't showered yet and gotten my clothes on. I had to get my pack, and we bumped into each other and actually ran together those couple of days when we were in California. But anyway, those are just some benefits of being out there on the street and saying hello to people. I did want to mention one other thing that Victor and I kind of alluded to last week when we were talking that we would address today. There's a couple of things you have to remember regarding your health and fitness during the holidays. And I think one of the biggest issues we talked about last week was the alcohol and richer foods, the consumption of those. Watch what you're doing. But the other part that we didn't touch on so much on that subject was mindset and your intention, and also your boundaries. And I think this is something Victor and I had brainstormed a little bit about. And I'm going to bring it up now, if you don't mind, because we're down to those last 2 weeks before Christmas and the last 3 weeks before our New Year's events. But if you're intentionally doing something good for you and you're allowing other people to interfere with that, don't let it happen during the holidays just because you let your guard down a little bit or you relax. You have some goals and you also have some boundaries. So, with those goals, you know what steps you want, especially your training program, something that we offer through our coaching. And Victor's going to post all of that at the end of our podcast. He'll have all of those connections in our show notes. So make sure you go to those. But if you do develop a coaching routine and you're working with a coach, such as Victor, and he pulls me in with me as well, you're establishing some very intentional structure in your life. You're establishing some very intentional goals in your life. If you allow other people to interfere with those just because, and I say that for a reason, just because it's the holidays, you're not being fair to yourself. Have some boundaries to say, no, I'm not going to have that third drink. I don't need it. I am going to try to get a little exercise tomorrow. I want to get some rest. It's okay to say no. And it's okay for the rest of the family and friends to say, oh, they're going out for a run tomorrow, or they're going to do some exercise tomorrow. They're going to get a workout. It's really okay to say no, because what happens in the long run is you maintain your healthy lifestyle intentionally with a little bit of flexibility for the holidays for friends and family. They're going to lead, you're leading by example. If they see you happy when you achieve a goal because of the time and effort and work you put into it, regardless of what's going on around you, you never know what effect that might have to influence and inspire someone that says, wow, Victor was able to do that through all of his commitments to the family and friends, all the things he did for us. Wow, I'm going to talk to him and see what I need to do just to go out and achieve a goal that's just for me. So a lot of that goes into play as well. And it's really okay to say no to people and then allow them the opportunity and the grace to get involved with them in another part of the day or another part of the holiday celebrations.
Yes, you make a really good point, Adele. We don't realize the ripple effect of some of our
Mm,
decisions have, and sometimes we only focus on thinking we let somebody down, but for the most part, doing the things that are right for you and for the bigger purpose has very positive ripple effects with the people around you.
right, right. It does. It does. And also, too, if you're working with any kind of coach, that's giving you some good insight in the physical part of your training or physical part of your um, the other parts of your nutrition, your hydration, your rest, all of that. If you're working with a coach, lean on them. If you really are a little bit confused and what do I do in this situation? A lot of times, and Victor and I obviously we're talking about this with clients, lean on your coach. Give them a call, shoot them a message. Hey, I'm confronted with this situation. You have any ideas on how I can get through it? You have any ways I might be able to stay on track, or maybe have this conversation? How can I say no to people? Can you just give me a little support in that area? And I know Victor's done that. I do it in a lot of my transformational coaching as well. So please lean on your coach if you do have one. And of course, we offer those opportunities as well in our coaching packages and our coaching support that we designed.
Absolutely. Yeah. having a coach helps a great deal when you have those questions. And just for reinforcing and that extra comfort of I am in the right track, or
Mhm.
if I was thinking this morning also when some of my clients have gotten injured and not necessarily running, it could have been injury on at work or they were doing other activities like snowboarding, having having an extra plan of what happens when if you get injured because
Mhm.
it's so easy to get discouraged and get that call where like, oh, I'm going to be out for the next 2 weeks because I injured. Uh, I usually let them know ahead of time, hey, if something happens, if you get injured, there may be other options of to stay continue to stay fitness. If you hurt a foot, well, yeah, well, you're not going to run probably, but there's still other exercise you might be able to do with your
Mhm.
upper body.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind that you can always do something.
Right. Well, and I'll share a little, I'll share something with everybody. And I know Victor knows this too. I've had both shoulders surgically repaired. I was injury free, surgery free for years and years and years. Had a torn meniscus a while back. I wasn't even running. It wasn't even due to run, the competitive tennis, but just clumsiness, so to speak. And a shoulder injury takes a lot of time to rehab, just as much as other injuries do. But that shoulder injury is pretty severe, and post surgery rehab is a good 6, 8, 12 months. My biggest thing was to count the times I was able to get back in the pool, even if it was just a kick. And it took about 6 months just to be able to manipulate getting back in the pool using a kickboard. Could I maneuver the shoulder for one 25-yard freestyle? Yeah, maybe, but it took a lot of time. So I always looked at it as what else can I do? Stay on my nutrition, don't overeat, try to keep my weight and lean muscle as close to my training balance as I usually do. But also, can I do arm weights if I've injured a leg? Can I do some abs and cores to keep strong? Can I do some things that will give me some flexibility with the upper body or hip flexors if it's not a full leg motion that is prohibited? You might be able to do some little maybe just some little bridges, something to keep the hips, the legs, the buttocks, everything a little bit more flexible, a little bit more in tune, so that when you're able to step out again, if it's a running injury that's prevented you, when you're able to go out and walk and run again, when you're able to do some a little bit more cycling or a little bit more swimming or mountain climbing or snowboarding, whatever it is, take your time. But there's always a little something you can do, even if it's just deep breathing and some relaxation, a little bit of mild stretching, even a little bit of yoga that will get the body in tune a little bit. Always consider your options. And Victor, I think you're spot on. There is always a little something you can do to keep the mind and spirit intact with the physical part as well.
Yes, thank you. You make great, great points, Adele. Uh, Thank you so much. We've covered quite
Oh yeah.
some stuff today and great tips that you gave our audience. And yeah, we just want to have everybody have a fun time these holidays. Continue to visit us. We're going to keep putting content out there. And also, I encourage our listeners to tune in and make a comment. Tell us something that we might have missed, something that we didn't mention, or if you have other tips, will be great. We'll mention them on our next episode.
And any questions you might have, go to the show notes, put them in there. We can address them. Maybe we'll do a question and answer sometime in the next few weeks if we have some questions that we can respond to. Maybe we can do that one session. That'd
Absolutely.
be great.
Yeah, a Q&A. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody. Go to the show notes. Let us know what you think about everything. And if you do have anything you'd like us to discuss with you soon, especially next week, just right before Christmas. We love presents. If we want to talk a little bit more about presents, we can do that. But definitely thank you so much for tuning in. Victor, bye, everybody.
Bye.